Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Bo Williams. Knox County has a new leader for its health department for the first time in nearly 20 years. Dr. Martha Buchanan retired earlier in the year from her post as senior director. She had become a familiar face in COVID-19, Knox County's version of Dr. Fauci. Her successor, Kevin Parton, is not a doctor. His training is in accounting. Last week, reporter Elizabeth Kubel met Parton for a look into his priorities and plans for the department.
A new role for you, a new title, senior director. How are you feeling about stepping into this position?
It's very exciting. I've been here for several years now and have gotten to know the team, and it's a big step, but one I'm excited about.
Can you explain too, so obviously we have seen Dr. Martha Buchanan in the role of health director and health officer. That role, since she has left, has now been split into two. Can you explain the role specifically of health director?
Sure. So the senior director, which is the position I hold, is basically the administrative arm to the health department. We handle the finance, the human resources, all of those aspects to it. The public health officer, they will handle obviously the medical issues, the epidemiology standpoint of our work, things like that.
Senior director, I should probably say, not health director, senior director.
Sure.
Okay. Can you walk us to your background too? How'd you get to this point?
Sure. So I started with the health department in 2019. I was the finance director here. My former boss retired at the end of 2020. And from there, they combined our jobs into the chief administrative officer, which I held that position until Dr. Buchanan retired and stepped down, and I became the interim director. And then last Monday, the mayor's office promoted me to the permanent position of senior director.
But this was not your first title held with Knox County.
No, the first title was in 2019. I was the finance director for the health department.
All right, why Kchd? Why was this something that you wanted to take on?
Well, I come from a finance background, and eventually I felt the need. I wanted to serve, the public at large. My father was retired Air Force. I have an uncle that was retired Marines, and other family members that have served. So it's just kind of in our nature to serve the public. And there was not a lot of positions in finance in the public sector, and once this one became open, I applied and lucked out and made it through.
Mm-hmm. Now as it becomes official, so of course you were, taking it on in the interim, but now as it becomes official, what are your priorities in this new role?
So we have some immediate priorities. We were the first health department in Tennessee to be accredited by the Public Health Accreditation Board, and we're going through the reaccreditation process now that COVID is hopefully staying on the decline. We have a community health assessment that we're working to complete that we did prior to COVID, and now we need to see where we stand as a community now. And then we also will have back-to-school vaccinations coming up for all the new kids going to school.
And tell us your priorities as you take on this new role.
Sure. So we were the first health department in the state of Tennessee to become accredited by the Public Health Accreditation Board, and now at this point we have to go back through the reaccreditation process. So that's at the top of our list. We also have our community health assessment that we're working on completing. We'll also have back to school coming up very soon, so we'll be very busy with vaccinations of little kids. And then also we're taking over the state of mental health report that the Mental Health Association did several months ago. We'll be taking that over and working on it.
And reflect on your time as the interim director. You stepped into this role really in the thick of the pandemic.
You could say that. I've received a crash course in public health. Dr. Buchanan left some shoes that nobody will be able to fill, so I'm just putting a different pair on and guiding a really dedicated team of 250 plus and supporting them in everything that they do.
So we know too, as you know, as you have been here for the last couple of years, that throughout the course of the pandemic, the health department has received a little bit of scrutiny. Are you prepared? How have you prepared for that?
It's part of working in public health. For many years, we flew under the radar. Nobody really noticed us, and as we became wanting to get more engaged with the community, to push health farther. With that comes a certain level of spotlight, and now that we have that, what good can we do with our work now?
Mm-hmm. As you know, too, COVID put a strain on resources. How do you prepare for that, and how do you make sure that those resources are in place for whatever it is that may come next?
Well, we learned a lot through the pandemic of what we needed to do beforehand, during, and kind of after the fact. So now it's continuously to be prepared for whatever the next obstacle might be.
We are seeing COVID case numbers rising, 780 in the active cases as of the last report that was put out today. Is that a concern for the health department?
Well, it's something that everybody should be aware of and take the precautions that they feel necessary. It's not an unexpected increase by any means.
How is the department responding?
We still respond every day to the public health emergency that is COVID right now. We receive cases, we do our best to contact cases and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Cases are not nearly as high, as we all know, as they were in the thick of the pandemic, but what would be the response if COVID does bounce back?
We have the ability to grow our team and shrink our team as cases evolve. So one of the things that we learned was we needed to have that flexibility of 250 people in the health department. 250 people can work inside of a COVID response if needed.
And as we do talk about that uptick that is happening right now, though as we said, it is not as extreme as we have seen in the past, but I know June 1st is the time when we will stop reporting active, inactive, recovered cases. Right. Do you feel that is the appropriate time?
We're following suit with the Tennessee Department of Health. This, like all other reportable diseases, is something that we just have to work into our everyday workload. And in cases, we've set up our own division here at the health department, a COVID response division. So we'll work accordingly.
Mm-hmm. There has been some concern expressed about maybe a lack of public health background on your part. Sure. What is your response to those people?
I'm here to support the professionals of the public health department, whether it be through, the finance section or the human resources section or whatever it is that they need. I don't pretend to be, the master of public health domain, but I work for those that do.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Buchanan, as we know, had this role for more than a decade. Have you talked to her at all since stepping in? Has she passed along any advice
Absolutely.
or wisdom to you?
Well, she reached out and congratulated me and was looking forward to what we were going to do, and knew our team would be grateful that somebody they knew would be still here with them and helping them along.
And will you now be working closely alongside the health officer?
Yes.
How do you see that relationship playing out?
I think it will be great once we have an interim right now, Dr. Sayer, and we work really well together. As you know, the search for a permanent replacement is ongoing, and I look forward to getting involved in that process as well.
Mm-hmm. Anything that you just want people to know about you and your priorities and what it is that you're passionate about here at the health department? Just really,
it's service to those in Knox County, and really a service to those that are here working every day. It's been a really hard 2.5 years, and I really want to work for them.
When we were in the hallway outside waiting for you, I ran into a group of ladies, and we were, they were asking me about the interview, and I was telling them, and they said, oh, he makes an effort to stop by each of our departments. Is that something that is important to you, that you want to be shaking hands with the people here, you want to meet them, you want to talk to them face to face?
Absolutely. I do my best to walk through just about everywhere that I can. I get here early so that I can go down perhaps into a clinical area where I won't interrupt patient flow, where I go at the end of the day and just sit with them and talk and ask what they need and what they want and what I can do to help.
Still to come, our panel of pundits is coming up next. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side. And welcome back to Tennessee This Week. I'm Bo Williams. Joining me right now, attorney Shelley Breeding and healthcare analyst Craig Griffith. Thanks to both of you for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk about let's talk about Elizabeth's interview we just watched with Senior Director Kevin Parton now with the Health Department in Knox County. Craig, I want to ask you first of all, your thoughts. Martha Buchanan had two roles. Now we're splitting those roles. Parton taking one of those now as Senior Director. What are your thoughts as far as breaking up those two roles, first of all?
Well, having worked in a hospital scenario before, that's very common. There was your support staff, the accountants and the engineers and things like that supported the medical side of the hospital, the doctors, nurses, and technicians. So it's a model that I'm familiar with, and it should work well. I think it was probably overwhelming for Dr. Buchanan to have both those positions, especially when you came into a pandemic situation where you really needed to more or less take care of the science, the medical side of it, and let someone else do the back of the house work, the accounting and personnel things. So I think it'll be a fine scenario. It depends on who they hire to be the medical head of the organization, and I certainly hope that in the end there is some movement with both the health department, the county government, and the city government to look back at the pandemic, look and see what was done well, what was done poorly, and don't dwell too much on COVID-19, dwell on the next pandemic that's coming down the road. How can we better prepare for that eventuality? We already have monkeypox. And so we know that there's going to be some sort of pandemic situation come along. Hopefully it'll be a long time away, but if not, that they study this situation so that we're more prepared for it than we were COVID-19.
And that kind of leads to the next question. Shelley, I'm going to start with you on this one. Elizabeth asked about scrutiny that comes with working in the health department. Obviously, during COVID, we heard a lot of people voicing different opinions. And Parton made a comment that they kind of flew under the radar for years. And then obviously different health topics started to come up. They started to get more attention. And obviously with COVID, there was a lot of attention on the health department. So she was kind of curious on how you handle all that. But yes, the health department over the last several years, especially with COVID, has really been more into the microscope than probably in quite some time. So obviously he's going to have to step in and handle that. I know it's just the administrative side, but still that's a little bit more, maybe more critiques, maybe more attention that was paid to that position than before.
Yeah, certainly. And let me first start off by saying I know Kevin personally. We have some mutual friends. I've known him for a while. And I think he's going to handle that pressure really well. You hear about people who work with him talking about him going around and checking on the different departments and seeing how it's going. I think he likes to be in touch with the people who work at the health department. And like you said, it's generally under the radar. I mean, I worked at CDC, my first job out of law school. I worked in public health, and it was very much under the radar. And then since COVID-19, it's been very much in the spotlight. I think he's already been doing a lot of that, going to meetings with county officials, keeping people updated. Certainly, Dr. Buchanan did a tremendous amount of work, but she couldn't do everything during the pandemic. And he was there working the long hours. I think he's got a lot of experience. He's there with the people who work with him. And I think he's going to take that experience from the pandemic. I mean, he came to the health department right before the pandemic. And take that experience and carry it through going forward to be able to answer those questions and to be in the spotlight and handle those criticisms and critiques if they come along.
Well, some of those may come in the form of, and Craig, I'll let you answer this one, and the fact that he's not a doctor. I know this is an administrative role more or less, but he doesn't have that background. So do you think there will be a lot of focus there as far as when it comes to policy and whatnot?
Well, you have to have the non-medical personnel work together with the medical personnel. You had that in almost every hospital. More and more hospital administrators now are physicians, but for the long time they weren't. They were CEO, they were CPAs and things like that knew finance and management and things like that. And until, it wasn't too long ago that at St. Mary's, it was into the 1980s, I believe St. Mary's had a sister as the hospital administrator over there. So I think that's not really a problem that he can't overcome. And I think that it'll probably work out better if you have these defined roles. And of course, and before the pandemic came along, and Tennessee did not expand its Medicaid program, I thought that the public health departments throughout the state should take up that slack, should become the primary care office for the millions of people that really didn't have any sort of insurance coverage. I looked for a much expanded role of public health departments in Tennessee's health infrastructure, but after the pandemic, that's not going to fly. People are now very skeptical of health departments, and so which is a shame. I mean, many people have quit in public health across the country because of the treatment that they got during the pandemic. So I think that it's going to work. I think he'll do a fine job, and the medical director that they hire will come along and do the science side of it, which is probably the way it needs to be done.
And he did mention, that they have learned a lot during the pandemic, the before, the during. Now we're kind of learning about the after. But again, a lot of questions about whether or not we will be ready when and if we have another round or something else comes along. But he did say, Shelley, that they have the ability to grow and shrink the teams as COVID evolves. So it sounds like they have learned some things, and they are starting to put some plans into place just in case, heaven forbid, we have to endure something like that again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal coming out of COVID, is to take the lessons learned, much like we did from the last flu pandemic, is take those lessons learned, and then how do we apply them going forward? And it sounds like he has a good plan on having teams that if there's another rise in cases, hopefully there's not through the summer, but in the winter, I think that's a real possibility. Then they can take some people, shift them from other teams back to the COVID response team, where they may not be needed at the moment during the summer, during lower times. And it sounds like that's what they've gotten to now. And thankfully, we've had a little bit of time with COVID to be able to better respond to it. So hopefully in the future, we can have those teams in place and they're ready to go, as soon as the threshold number of cases is met to trigger those people to shift positions.
All right. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're glad you're joining us right now for Tennessee This Week. We've got more we want to talk about, so stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We're going to shift our attention right now and talk about, obviously, the country's still trying to come to grips with what happened in Texas recently at Robb Elementary. 19 children killed, 2 teachers also killed when a gunman entered and opened fire in a classroom. Obviously, this brings back a lot of discussion. You've heard from both sides as far as guns, the right to bear arms, gun control. This is going to be a continued hot topic. Shelley, I want to start with you because obviously this is a hot topic and more people want to see things done from Washington, more debate on this. Where do we go from here? But kind of talk about what are our rights, I guess, first of all, out of the gate when it comes to purchasing guns.
Yeah, certainly. The right to bear arms is in the Second Amendment to the Constitution. It's been there since our country was founded. Now, when courts are looking at laws that restrict in any way a constitutional right, it's under the strict scrutiny standard. And that's the highest standard that the courts look at. So it's very difficult for the government to pass a law that infringes on a constitutional right. It goes back to the case from Japanese internment camps for the Korematsu case. They ultimately found that did advance a compelling state interest. So the first thing that you have to show is that there's a compelling state interest to limit that constitutional right. And then the next thing that the court looks at is the law narrowly tailored to meet that compelling government interest? So in this case, obviously, I think that there's a compelling state interest in protecting the lives, especially of children. The question then is, how do you narrowly tailor that law? Because the court has to find that law is the least restrictive means to achieve the compelling state interest. And so while I support a lot of the legislation to limit, for example, assault rifles or to have expanded background checks, they're going to be, to answer your question, legally, they're going to be strictly scrutinized to see if they will meet that strict scrutiny standard under the court system.
Craig, let me ask you, recently, Representative John Ray Clemens came out and said he wants the governor to repeal open carry and pass what he calls common sense gun laws. What are your thoughts on those requests, first of all?
Well, they stand 0% chance of passing either the Tennessee General Assembly or being signed by the governor. So, first, my heart just goes out to those parents at Robb Elementary, just like they did to the people at Parkland and the people at Sandy Hook. There are gun rights, yes, but there also should be gun responsibilities. Not everyone should be entitled to a weapon of mass murder that many of these individuals, these mass murderers, use. They're weapons of war. They're designed to kill. That's all they're designed for. And to inflict as much damage to the person on the other end of that bullet as possible. It just broke my heart that some of those people in Parkland had to cremate their children because the wounds from the bullets were so horrible they couldn't reconstruct their child. So something needs to be done. I'm tired of hearing, no, we can't do anything. Something can be done. We have, for example, we have an example is the Brady Bill. When the Brady Bill was enforced, we had 0 assault weapon mass murders. And maybe that's something that you can go back and look at. But it's all, there is such overwhelming support in the polls for simple things like expanded background checks that, I wonder why nothing has been done. And I saw a quote from a British journalist after Sandy Hook that said that if the death of these precious children did not move the debate on common sense gun laws forward, nothing will. And I tend to think that nothing will be done after Robb Elementary, or nothing will be done after the shooting at the supermarket in Buffalo. The people want to arm teachers. There was an armed security guard in that supermarket in Buffalo who died in the line of duty, but it didn't stop the event from happening. So we need to take a hard look and come up with some evidence-based principles where we can all agree on to make our children safer. And to make, and not only children, but people going to concerts in Las Vegas, people going to the grocery store. There needs to be something that we can do.
I tell you, we're going to change it up here for a second. I want to really touch on, before we run out of time here, Vanderbilt released a poll here. I don't know if both of you have had a chance to kind of glance at that. Was there anything that jumped out? I know there was a lot of different topics, everything from the upcoming presidential race again in 24, to abortion, to the death penalty. Was there anything, Shelley, first of all, that jumped out at you, maybe surprised you, or maybe you said, yeah, I definitely agree with that? What kind of grabbed you when you looked at that poll?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, and I should, but the numbers on abortion, that more Tennesseans than I thought, and I think it was a majority, were against banning abortion in all cases.
Yeah, I think it was like 80% said either they were in favor completely or with some exceptions. They were in favor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think our legislatures really need to take that into account when they look at passing any future laws regarding abortion, because the leaked opinion of overturning Roe v. Wade, I think that's going to come down the pipe very soon from the General Assembly. So I hope that they're looking at that a large number of Tennesseans want exceptions to allow abortions, at least in some circumstances.
Craig, how about you? Was the abortion figures jumped out at you, or was there something else with this poll that kind of made an impact?
Well, that was those numbers on abortion were interesting. Also, the numbers on the death penalty were fairly interesting. There was some strong support among some people for it, but as a whole, life imprisonment seemed to be a more viewed upon as the way to go. And I think a lot of people are realizing that the science hasn't kept the legal process hasn't kept up with the scientific process. As new techniques to analyze evidence come into play, we're seeing some sentences overturned. So that was surprising. But it didn't surprise me at all that Bill Lee was very popular and that Joe Biden wasn't very popular. So, and one thing was also was that there didn't seem to be overwhelming support for Trump running again.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you pointed that out, because even though it was still high, I think it was like at 68%, but it dropped 11% since the last time. Yeah.
And I think the results in the Georgia primaries bear that out as well. Of course, Trump, you can't take a bad candidate and make Trump support him and make that bad candidate win. So there were a couple of candidates that he supported that were just bad candidates and couldn't win no matter who supported them. But I do think that people are growing tired of, stop the steal and want to see what you're going to do to to stop inflation. You know, what you're going to do to help the economy versus concentrating on you know, the election of 2 years ago.
We're going to end it there. Again, thank you so very much for being a part of Tennessee This Week. Craig Shelley, as always, thank you. And thank you for watching Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.